The Lost Watch. My name is Anna. Am 73 years old. Many years ago, I worked for a very rich family. Their house was big and full of beautiful things. There were many rooms, big gardens, and soft chairs. I cleaned the house, washed the floors, and helped in the kitchen every day. Daniel was the father, Catherine was the mother, and Henry was their little boy. I liked my job and I felt happy there. I thought I would stay for many years. The family had many expensive things. They had gold lamps, silver plates, and old paintings. Catherine had many rings, necklaces, and watches. She loved one gold watch very much. She wore it every day and kept it close to her. She always smiled when she touched it. I knew it was very important to her. I was always careful when I cleaned her room. One morning, everything changed. Catherine could not find her gold watch. She looked in her room, but it was not there. She looked in the kitchen and the garden. She asked Daniel and Henry if they saw it. Then she asked me. I said I did not see it. She looked at me for a long time. I felt cold inside. That afternoon, things got worse. Daniel called me to the living room. Catherine stood next to him, and Henry hid behind her. Daniel spoke with a hard voice. He said they could not find the watch. He said they trusted me, but now they were not sure. I tried to speak, but my voice was weak. Daniel told me to leave the house. He said I must go and not come back. Catherine did not look at me. Henry stayed quiet. I packed my small bag. My hands were shaking. I wanted to cry, but I did not. I walked out of the big house slowly. The sky looked gray and heavy. I sat outside on the street with my bag. I did not know where to go. I felt small and lonely. People passed by, but no one looked at me. I thought about the house, the garden, and little Henry. I thought about the happy days I had lost. My heart was very heavy that day. As I sat there, I wondered why they believed I took the watch. I was always kind and honest. I cleaned their house like it was my own. I loved working there. But now they thought I was a thief. It hurt more than I can say. I closed my eyes and wished the day would end. I stayed on the street for a long time, feeling cold and tired. The day was slow and the sun went down. I watched the lights come on in the windows of the houses. I thought about where I could sleep that night. I had no home and no family in the city. My bag was small and light. It only had a few clothes and some coins. I got up and started to walk, but my legs felt heavy and weak. I found a small bench near a park. It was not soft, but it was a place to sit. I looked at the sky and saw many stars. They looked so far away and I felt even smaller. I hugged my bag close to my chest. A cold wind blew through the trees. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep, but my mind was full of sad thoughts. I missed my little room in the big house. I missed hearing Henry laugh in the morning. The next day I woke up early. My back hurt from sleeping on the bench. My clothes were dirty and my hair was messy. I walked to a small cafe and used the last coins I had to buy a piece of bread. The woman at the counter looked at me with cold eyes. I sat near the window and ate slowly. I watched happy people walk by outside. They had clean clothes and warm homes. I felt like I was invisible to everyone. Later, I went to the market to look for work. I asked many people if they needed help. Some people said no. Some people did not even answer me. A man selling apples told me to move away. I tried to stay strong, but my heart was breaking. I wanted to cry, but I held the tears inside. I told myself to be brave, even when everything felt so hard. I walked all day, but I found no work. That evening, I sat again near the park. The sky was red and orange as the sun went down. I thought about my life before. I thought about the smiles from Catherine and Daniel. I thought about Henry's small hands when he gave me flowers. I wondered if they missed me at all. Maybe they forgot about me quickly. Maybe they were happy now without me. I felt like a small stone thrown away. Suddenly, I heard a voice calling my name. I looked up and saw a woman running toward me. It was Catherine. Her face was red from running, and she was out of breath. She wore a long coat, and in her hand she held something small and shiny. My heart started to beat fast. I stood up, but I did not know what to say. Why was she here? What did she want from me now? Catherine came close and held out her hand. In her hand was the gold watch. It was not lost. It was never stolen. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. She said they found the watch. It had fallen behind a big chair in the living room. They only found it when they moved the furniture to clean. She said she was very sorry for everything. Her voice shook as she spoke. I looked at the watch and then at Catherine. I felt many things at once. I felt happy that I was not a thief. I felt sad for all the pain. I felt angry that they did not trust me. I wanted to scream, but I stayed quiet. Catherine asked me to come back to work. She said they missed me. She said Henry cried for me every night. But I stood still. I did not take her hand. I did not move. I looked at Catherine standing there with the watch in her hand. Her face was full of sadness. But I stayed quiet. I thought about the cold words they said to me. I thought about the long night I spent on the bench. I thought about how they did not believe me when I told the truth. My heart was heavy. I wanted to forgive her, but it was not easy. Some hurts stayed deep inside for a long time. Catherine spoke again. She said Daniel felt very bad, too. She said Henry asked for me every morning. She told me they wanted me back at the house. She said I would have my room, my bed, and my work again. She promised they would never doubt me again. I listened to her words, but I stayed still. I was not sure if I could trust them again. Trust is easy to break and hard to fix. I looked at the big house far away. Its windows were bright with warm yellow light. I thought about the kitchen where I used to bake bread. I thought about the garden where Henry played. I thought about the room where I read my books at night. My heart pulled me back, but my mind told me to be careful. It is hard to go back to a place where your heart was broken. Catherine put the watch into her pocket and wiped her eyes. She said she understood if I could not forgive them. She said she just wanted me to know the truth. She said it was not right to judge someone so fast. She said she learned a big lesson. Her voice was soft and full of tears. I could see she really felt sorry, but I still felt cold inside. I took a deep breath and looked up at the sky. The stars were bright and beautiful. They looked so peaceful, so far from all the pain. I thought about my life and my dreams. I thought about finding a new place where people would trust me. I thought about starting fresh. Sometimes it is better to move forward than to go back. Catherine waited for me to say something. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. I just shook my head slowly. I picked up my bag and started to walk away. I heard Catherine call my name again, but I did not turn back. I needed time to heal. I needed time to believe in myself again. I needed to find a new path, a better one. As I walked down the empty street, the wind blew through my hair. My steps were slow, but each step felt a little stronger. I did not know where I would sleep that night. I did not know where I would work, but I knew one thing. I knew I did not want to live where my heart was not safe. I wanted a new beginning. I passed a small shop with a bright window. Inside, a woman was putting bread into baskets. She looked kind and busy. I watched her for a moment. Maybe I could find work there. Maybe this was a sign. I took a deep breath and stepped toward the door. It was time to begin again. I opened the door to the small shop. A warm smell of fresh bread and cake filled the air. The woman behind the counter looked up and smiled at me. Her smile was kind and soft. I felt a little hope inside my chest. I walked slowly to the counter and said hello. My voice was small, but she listened carefully. I asked if she needed any help. I told her I could clean, carry baskets, and help with customers. The woman's name was Maria. She said she owned the bakery with her husband, Tom. She looked at my tired face and dirty clothes. For a moment, she said nothing. I waited and hoped. Then she said I could help clean the bakery in the mornings. She said it would not be much money, but I could also have food and a place to sleep. I felt my eyes fill with tears, but I quickly looked down and said thank you. Maria showed me a small room behind the bakery. It had a little bed, a table, and a window that looked out onto the street. It was not big or beautiful like my old room, but it was warm and safe. I put my bag on the floor and sat on the bed. I felt so tired, but also a little stronger. I had a place to stay now. I had a chance to start again. That night I slept deeply for the first time in many days. The next morning I woke up early. I washed my face and brushed my hair. I wanted to look clean and ready. I swept the floor, cleaned the tables, and washed the windows. Maria smiled when she saw my work. She said I was fast and careful. Her husband, Tom, also smiled and gave me a fresh piece of bread. I felt happy again. I felt useful. I was not a lost girl anymore. As the days passed, I learned more about the bakery. I learned how to arrange the bread, how to help customers, and how to pack cakes. I liked hearing the happy sounds of people talking and laughing. I liked the smell of fresh bread every morning. I liked feeling needed. Maria and Tom never spoke to me with cold voices. They trusted me, and I trusted them back. One evening, after a long day of work, Maria sat with me. She asked me about my past. I told her a little about the rich family, the lost watch, and how they sent me away. She listened carefully and held my hand. She said that sometimes people make mistakes. She said that good people can be hurt by the mistakes of others. I felt my heart grow a little lighter when I heard her words. I started to smile more each day. I made new friends in the neighborhood. People came to the bakery not just for bread, but to say hello. They knew my name. They liked my smile. I was not invisible anymore. I was part of something small, but kind. It was not a big house with gold lamps, but it was a place full of warm hearts. It was enough for me. One afternoon, as I cleaned the window, I saw Henry across the street. He held his mother's hand tightly. Catherine stood beside him, looking at the bakery. For a moment, our eyes met. I felt my heart jump. Henry waved a little hand at me. Catherine smiled sadly and nodded once. Then they walked away into the busy street, and I watched them go without a word. After seeing Henry and Catherine, I stood by the window for a long time. My heart was full of feelings I could not name. I thought about running after them. I thought about calling their names. But I stayed still. I knew I was not the same girl anymore. I had changed. My life had changed. Sometimes love is not enough when trust is broken. I wiped the window slowly and went back to my work. Maria noticed my quiet mood. She came and placed a warm loaf of bread in my hands. She did not ask me any questions. She just smiled and said, "You are safe here." Her words felt like a soft blanket around my heart. I smiled back and said, "Thank you." I knew that not everyone needed to know my past. What mattered now was my future, and my future looked a little brighter with each new day. The bakery grew busier as the days passed. People liked our bread and cakes. They liked the warm smell and the happy feeling inside the shop. Sometimes children came in after school, laughing and pointing at the sweet cakes. Old men sat by the window, drinking tea and telling stories. I liked watching them. I liked being part of their small, simple joys. It made me feel at home. One evening, Tom came to me with a small envelope. Inside was my first week's pay. I held the money in my hand and felt proud. It was not much, but it was mine. I had earned it with my own work. I decided to save it carefully. I dreamed of one day renting my own little room, maybe even starting my own bakery. Dreams that once felt far away now felt a little closer. Sometimes at night, when the bakery was quiet, I sat by the window and looked at the stars. I thought about all the people who had come and gone in my life. I thought about the lessons I had learned: trust, kindness, patience, and strength. These things were more important than gold watches or big houses. These things stayed with you even when everything else was gone. One rainy morning, a little girl came into the shop with wet shoes and a sad face. She lost her coin and could not buy bread. I smiled and gave her a small bun for free. Her face lit up with joy, and she said, "Thank you again and again." Maria saw everything and smiled at me. That day I learned something important. Giving kindness is sometimes more powerful than getting rich. Spring came, and flowers started to bloom. The streets were full of color again. I loved walking to the market in the mornings. I loved hearing the birds sing. Life felt fresh and full of hope. Even though my heart still had some old scars, I felt strong. I had survived the pain. I had built a new life with my own hands. That made me proud every single day. One sunny afternoon, as I arranged flowers in the shop, I saw a letter on the table. It had my name on it, written in soft, careful letters. I opened it with shaking hands. It was from Catherine. She wrote about Henry. She wrote about missing me. She wrote about regret. She asked if one day I could visit. I sat down slowly, reading her words again and again. I held the letter in my hands for a long time. The words felt heavy and light at the same time. I could hear Catherine's voice in every line. I could see Henry's small hands reaching for mine. Part of me wanted to go back and see them again. Part of me was afraid to open old wounds. I folded the letter carefully and put it in my pocket. I needed time to think. That evening, Maria and I sat by the fire in the bakery. I told her about the letter. She listened without speaking. When I finished, she simply said, "Follow your heart." Her words stayed in my mind all night. I knew I could not stay stuck in the past. I had built a new life, but the old life was still a part of me. I had to find a way to make peace with it. The next morning, I packed a small bag. I wore my best dress and brushed my hair carefully. I told Maria and Tom that I would be gone for a day. They smiled and wished me luck. I walked through the busy streets with my head held high. My heart was beating fast, but my steps were steady. I was not the scared girl who ran away before. I was stronger now. When I reached the big house, I stood outside the gate for a long time. The garden was still green and full of flowers. The windows were clean and bright. It looked the same, but I knew I had changed. I rang the bell and waited. Catherine opened the door. Her face showed surprise, then hope. She stepped aside to let me in without saying a word. Henry ran to me with open arms. He hugged me tightly, and I felt tears fill my eyes. Catherine watched us with wet eyes, too. She said she was sorry again and again. She said she had learned a lot. She said she never should have doubted me. I listened quietly. I could see that she meant every word. Forgiveness is not easy, but it is possible when hearts are open. We sat in the sunny kitchen and drank tea. Henry showed me his toys and told me about school. Catherine asked about my life in the bakery. I told them about Maria and Tom, about the bread, and about the kindness I found there. They listened with real smiles. It felt strange, but good to sit there again. It felt like closing a long, painful story. When the sun began to set, I stood up to leave. Catherine asked if I wanted to stay for dinner, but I said no. I needed to return to my new home. I hugged Henry and kissed his small forehead. I shook Catherine's hand and smiled. I felt no anger, no sadness. I only felt peace. It was time to move forward with an open heart and a strong spirit. As I walked back to the bakery, the sky turned pink and gold. I thought about everything that had happened. I thought about the lost watch, the lost trust, and the lost home. But I also thought about what I had found: strength, kindness, and a new family. Sometimes losing something shows you what really matters. Sometimes losing is the first step to truly finding yourself. It's a good way to practice English every day. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories.